Courting cliché is an easy gig, let's be honest. You don't need to think, you just need to repeat. You don't need to ponder your choices or the choices of other people. You can simply insist that good is good and bad is bad. And it proves one obvious thing, that most people, by definition, are average. And the average is not all that impressive. The impressive is the intellectually or artistically unique and developed. Those things which we can look at and go, that is remarkable. Something which is truly state of the art, or something which is truly impressive in some way, shape or form. But when it comes down to the average person is not expressing something terribly complex, because they are a person who is average. They're not an idiot, they're not a fool, they're not below average, although there are many people below average. We are talking about the average, and that's kind of a nebulous area of, well, people who are mediocre. Mediocre isn't all that bad, it's not all that good either. It's just simply is what it is, where most people fit, where most people, probably like myself, probably fit, in that kind of area between extremes. And those extremes are drop-off points, and you end up with that centre ground of relative intelligence. It's not a good thing, it's not a bad thing in most ways, but it can mean that many people out there who should be talking about more intellectually valid points are in fact expressing emotional points, which will probably turn people off and drive people in political situations towards the opposition or towards people who are in power and perhaps should not be. And as a result, obviously, it can be damaging. At least it's not complete and utter idiocy. There is that. If the population was completely ignorant and foolish, then of course you'd end up with an even greater problem. But then again, that would simply drag down the average by definition. But in any case, when many people are letting their lesser self, their lesser intelligence dictate, instead of actually pushing the boundaries and expressing facts, if they're actually just simply going to go out there and simply going to fire out a bunch of emotional arguments and a bunch of things that are untrue and demonstrably untrue because they've heard it somewhere, they've got it from a trusted source, well, in many ways that's easy to debunk, and it will mean that many people will still vote for people like Donald Trump come November in the United States. And it can be damaging, but then again, with propaganda wars of any kind, there are those people who are simply parrots, and those people who express emotional arguments because they cannot deal with or refuse to deal with, or they perhaps express a mixture of those things which are in fact harmful. And I'll say harmful because even if it's a valid point, but it's not necessarily expressed in the best way, it can be a thing that can reflect badly on that political view, on that political part of the, part of the political compass or spectrum, whichever way you wish to express it. So yes, in many ways, it can be damaging. Every time you're calling a right-wing idiot a fascist or Hitler, literally Hitler, you're damaging your view because people can go, well, he's not literally Hitler. You're damaging your view by definition. And when that person says, you know, you're a socialist communist, you're Stalin, you're Lenin, they're doing the same thing. They are being as bad, they are being as extreme, although in some cases that's not always a bad thing for votes. It depends how you express it and express what to who. You know, and if you're expressing, you know, something to someone who would accept those views and think perhaps they are left-wing, I'll vote for them, or perhaps they are really right-wing and, you know, really, really right-wing, then perhaps that will get, you know, some voters out as well. But in many ways, it's propaganda wars, and it's people fighting over the centre ground, and they're using the radical arguments and ignoring previous answers given to basically project a view which is going to support their demands come an election. Basically, there's a lot of fake news, and that's the simple answer. There's a lot of fake news, and you need to check things out, and you need to research things that's actually been said, and that includes, you know, fact-check Trump's tweets. You'll see a lot of those are complete and utter bullshit. But yes, if you're a thinking human being, you cannot simply be driven by what you've discovered, what's been, you know, given to you via social media.